She left South Africa. Let's watch.
Why did I leave South Africa 5 years ago? I know what you're thinking.
Unemployment crisis worsens.
Relatively corrupt.
Synonymous with violent crime.
Those might be the reasons why a lot of people choose to move to the UK from South Africa, but it's not really what made me move here. I'm celebrating my 5th year in the UK. Cheers! So I thought it would be good to cover some reasons of why I chose to move here, what were my first impressions of the UK, and how my life is different from 5 years ago when I was still living in South Africa. Honestly, I've just always had a dream to experience the UK. So it's not necessarily that I wanted to just leave South Africa. It's just that I wanted to experience a new place, specifically London. London is my favorite city in the whole world. It has such a magical energy. Unfortunately, I do not live in London, but we did end up in a beautiful city here in Scotland called Edinburgh, and it's actually the capital of Scotland, and I still get to go to London at least once a year. The reason why we didn't end up in London is because we quickly realized that you can't be too picky with the location when you want to move over to the UK. You kind of just have to go with wherever you find your first job. I've always had such a passion for traveling, but let's be honest, the South African rand is so weak, so traveling abroad is very expensive. The UK's location is also amazing for traveling through the rest of Europe because you can get to so many other countries just by taking a short flight or even a train. So if you're keen to travel a bit more, it makes sense to be located in the UK. I had some really interesting and good jobs in South Africa, but I personally work in the digital space, so I always kind of felt like I was behind the rest of the world because it felt like all the digital trends were starting in the UK or in America, but now I'm here in the center of where everything is happening, so I definitely feel work-wise that I am really getting great experience in the digital space. Before I move on to my first impressions of the UK when I arrived here, I want to chat about how I was actually able to move to the UK, because that is probably the number one question that I get asked. It was a very expensive process, but I was able to apply for a spousal visa because my husband, who is also South African, has a British passport because his dad is from Scotland. So because he has that connection to the UK, it made it a lot easier for us to move here. I wouldn't say it made it more affordable. It was still, like I said, a very expensive process, but for us, we kind of saw it as an investment in our future. So in the last 5 years, I had 2 spousal visas, and now because I have been here for 5 years, I have been able to apply for my indefinite leave to remain. I'm going to make a whole separate video on the process of applying for indefinite leave to remain because I know some of you guys watching might be going through the same process, and it helps to get some tips from someone who's been through the experience. So if any of you have questions about the spousal visa or applying for indefinite leave to remain, let me know in the comments, and then I can definitely try and answer those in one of my next videos. The next step for me is to apply to become a British citizen, and then I'm going to be able to be a dual citizen, so I'll be able to keep my citizenship in South Africa and keep that passport, but I'll have the benefit of also having a British passport, which again is going to make traveling so much easier. I got a bit sidetracked there, but let's continue with my first impressions of the UK when I arrived here 5 years ago. South Africans are known to be very friendly and welcoming, and here in the UK I have also found people to be friendly and polite, and obviously this is a generalization of my experience. It doesn't apply to everybody that I've met. But when I was living in England, I did find that it was quite hard to feel included. So people were friendly, but they weren't really keen to invite you into their circle and really get to know you. Building relationships takes time. It doesn't matter where you are. So maybe I've just had more time in Scotland, but here I've been able to make some really good friends. The lifestyle is very different, and I loved it when I first arrived, and I still do now. I love being able to walk to so many different places, walking to the shops, walking to work, walking to the park. Personally, I'm not a big fan of driving, so I also love using the public transport and the fact that there are so many public transport options. I will say that the public transport can become a bit expensive, but it's there, it works, it's clean. The only part of the lifestyle that I'm starting to struggle with now is the amount of living space. The UK is small, so living space is also small. In South Africa, you have big houses, big gardens, so much space. And I used to be fine with the idea of just living in a small flat in the city. That's what I wanted. But now I have a baby, I have a dog, and with that, you need more space. So that probably means moving out of the city and looking for a bigger house, but we'll see what happens. The weather is something that people always bring up when you move from South Africa, because obviously in South Africa we are so blessed with amazing warm weather and a very short winter, and here it's the opposite. But when I first arrived, it didn't actually bother me, and I arrived in the middle of winter, but that was when I was living in England. England actually has amazing summers. It gets really hot in some places. But since moving to Scotland, it has become a bit more difficult. Scotland is a lot colder. Even in our summer months, the highs are 20, 21. And for me personally, that's not summer weather. The wind in Scotland is also crazy. You are constantly being blown away, and that is actually what makes it feel so much colder. So first impressions of the weather, not too bad. Now that I've been living here for a while, it's becoming a bit of a struggle. I think South Africans are very hard workers, so I wouldn't say there was much of a difference in my impression of the work ethic here. It's more what I mentioned earlier in the video about a lot of digital trends starting in the UK. Because it feels like you're on the center of where everything is happening, there is a bit more pressure to be on top of everything and very good at your job, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it can just be a bit more stressful. Obviously, my life has dramatically changed since living in South Africa, so here are a few of the main differences. It's inevitable that when moving to a different country, you are going to be more alone. When you're in your home country, you have your family, you have your friends, and I had plans almost every weekend to do something with someone. So it is a big adjustment at the start, getting used to spending so much more time by yourself, but it does teach you to be more independent and enjoy your own company sometimes. I definitely feel that I'm also living on a lot more of a strict budget. I think after the pandemic, everything everywhere got more expensive, but in general, living costs in the UK is very high, especially since we've been going through a cost of living crisis for the last few years. So I feel like I had more disposable income in South Africa after my expenses. It was a bit more affordable to go out to restaurants and maybe buy some nice things for myself here and there, whereas in the UK it is so expensive going out to restaurants. Eating out is expensive, alcohol is very expensive, all the different activities are very expensive, so I don't think you can afford to do something fun every single weekend. I'm definitely getting a lot more steps in on a daily basis since moving here. In South Africa, the only time you were really walking is if you're walking through a shopping mall or if you are doing a dedicated hike or walk. So I feel like the lifestyle is a bit more active here. It's also a bonus that Edinburgh is such a beautiful city, so I just love walking around here, seeing all the beautiful buildings, and because there is so much history here, I feel like every time I see something new, learn something new, so that just makes it so much more interesting when you're walking around. Back in South Africa, there was actually a period where I used the Gautrain every single day to get from Pretoria to Johannesburg, so I did use the public transport, but in general, if you have to compare it, the public transport in South Africa is a lot more limited than compared to the UK. Just here in Edinburgh, we have buses, we have trains, we have trams, and you can literally travel through the whole country with a bus or a train. I used to despise sitting in traffic in South Africa, and I think that's why I really don't like driving, because traffic feels like such a waste of time. So that's probably why I'm just so passionate about using public transport. Online shopping here is on another level. You can literally order something now and have it the next morning. I know South Africa has a few new things since I left, like the Checkers 6060, but it still has a long way to go to be on the level of the UK. The only thing you really need is Amazon. everything is on there. It's almost like they make it too easy to shop online. So you have to be careful if you like your shopping. So there you have a bit of an overview of why I decided to move to the UK and what my personal experience has been like. It's been a hard and a long journey, but in the end I am so happy and thankful to be here, and I do live in one of the most beautiful cities that I've ever been in, so it definitely has been worth it. I know a lot of other people are also thinking about moving to the UK and maybe don't know where to start, so I'm going to film an updated how to move to the UK in 2025 video. So if that is something that you are interested in, make sure you subscribe down below to see when that video is up. I hope you found this video interesting. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like down below to help support my channel. And like always, if you have any questions about life over here, let me know in the comments. Thanks again for watching, and then I will see you in the next video.
Wow, such an insightful video. W video. So, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Ciao, ciao.